Good morning. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to Random Crafty X, or welcome to Random Crafty X. If you haven't been here before, my name is Barb. This is part of a series on my YouTube channel called It's All About Scraps, I think. And this is basically to go along with one of the posts that I've made to my Operation Gratitude group, just to kind of give everybody a chance to look at how I make some of these decisions. I'm going to set this over here. So I basically started out and going through my scraps. I found that I had a whole bunch, meaning like 20 pieces that were 2 inches wide, and most of them were 6 inches long. And so I went to my go-to, which is Jess Crafts, jesscraft.com, and this is one of her for 6x6 paper. I basically just looked through all of her options there until I found something with two inches wide. And had I been working with 6-inch paper, I could have made 4 cards by cutting it the way she suggests here, which is cutting 3 strips that were 2 inches wide, and then cutting one piece with the 3 inches. This one is 3 inches. And then these pieces down here are 1/2 inch, 2 inches wide and 1/2 inch in height. And basically that worked out pretty well as I cut my strips up, and I stopped when I got to enough strips for 10 cards. Okay, so I was basically focused on this, except I planned to center this. And when I first put it on a card, I felt like I had what we refer to as too much white space. Okay, so I started looking for what kinds of things I could do on the background of this A2 size card without like digging into some other patterned paper, which I was trying to avoid. Okay, so I'm going to show you some of my different experiments, and then I'm going to make 2 of these with one of those. Okay, so one of the things I did was I took a pre-cut card base, and I kind of bent it around so that I ran just the top part into through the die cutting machine in an embossing folder, which is what these are. Okay, so with these you basically put a piece of paper inside here, and then you run it through something like a Sizzix, and it presses the paper down, and you get the design. Okay, and then I'm just like jumping along, and I get my little brush out, and I find some, I think it's Mulled Wine was the color, a Tailored Expressions color, and I'm like, oh wow, that really looks like it matches there, and I put all my pieces together. I did find that if I followed her instructions, which was to cut the mats 2 1/8 by 3 1/8, that this piece was a little bit wider than what I like, so I just put this back in my paper cutter and kind of trimmed an edge off. So I'm like working along, and it's like, oh, okay, I really like the way that looks. All right, then I realized that the back was like all debossed, which was going to mean that I was going to have to go in and put in a piece of plain paper here, because the idea is for whatever deployed service person gets this card to write in to send home, we want them to have all the surface possible to do that. Okay, so kind of liked it, decided I needed a slightly different approach. Okay, so on the next one, I actually took a 4 by 5 1/4 piece of white cardstock and ran it through, not this one, but the one that's got this flower print on it. not that you actually need to see this, but this is just also to give you an idea of how different embossing folders are. Like this one is a lot thicker than this one. I don't know why, they just make them differently. So anyway, so I put that in there, okay, and then I did the same thing. I used a blending brush and the ink and just barely pressed down, and you get a little bit of the cast in the background, but most of the ink ends up on the raised area, and I really do like the way that looks, okay. The other thing I had done, of course, which was just like take the blending brush and just color in the background. It's a substitute for color cardstock, really. And again, the colors set each other off nicely, and I put a little sentiment on here, and you put the little 3-inch, half-inch by 2-inch strips on the small piece of cardstock, and it's a lot of fine cutting, which kind of works with my cutting machines, but not quite as well. So, I mean, this was 3 options, okay? All right, so then the other option was to just take a piece of color cardstock and do the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 background, which I've been doing on a lot of my cards. And I had a bunch of odd cut pieces of this particular color, which is kind of a gray, and it seemed to do pretty well with this. So maybe not quite as well with some of these other shades here, but I think these look fine. Okay, so I had those 2, so now we're up to 5. This was a different pattern, and I was really concerned about how to put that on here. It kind of looks, I had trouble using this one before. It kind of looks good with the white. It doesn't look quite as good with the cream. This is very, these are the strips that are very white. So I ended up having to kind of work around with that, but I still I'm pretty happy with these. So those are 2 more of those. So that's 7. Okay, 8, 9, 10. All right, so here's the next glitch that I came up with. I sure hope I know where the other pieces to that are, but I'll find them. Oh, there they are. Okay, so I then decided that, I mean, this green, I've said before that green is a color that I have a fit trying to match. And so when we put this together, I really liked the way it looked on black. So I had to, I trimmed the 2-inch wide down just a little bit so that it would fit a little easier on this black piece. So you have that. And then you have these. I ended up having to do the same thing here, kind of take a pair, I was able to do this with a pair of scissors, even though I am really, really not good at cutting straight lines with scissors. I know that may sound silly, but it just really doesn't work very well for me. We all have our strengths. That one's not mine. Straight lines are not my thing. Okay, so you get 3 of these done. Okay, so then you come to what are you going to do with the background? All right. I had to go through and do a bunch of swatching to find a color that would work with this. Because, and this, I'm showing you this because this was what I refer to as an epic fail. And I have no idea what I'll do with this piece yet. I have an idea, but I'm not brave enough to just like do that in the video. Okay, so I ran a piece of black through the embossing folder. This was an embossing folder that has mostly leaves on it because that's what these 2 did have. And and then I took, you know, like some dark, really dark green, and I rubbed it on there, and you get nothing. I mean, it just absorbs into the black and you can't see it. And even like if you're like really got a light on it, you can see that it kind of shined up a little bit, but it's not there. So I started experimenting with some like different colors and everything. I even took, this is an acrylic marker with kind of a long point on it that was white, and I tried rubbing that across. You can see here that it like it really got down in there, but I managed to get the angle right. I'd pretty much given up on this being a success at that point. Okay, and so then after the acrylic paint stuff dried, then I took a blending brush with some green and tried to go over the top of it. I think, and I've seen people do this, and I haven't tried to do it yet because I've got them someplace, but I think if you put your white acrylic down and then you maybe you went over it with a brayer, which is like a little roller. If you could do it just right, that might work. The other thing that I have never been able to find, and I know it's out there, but I just have not been able to find it, and that is some kind of ink like this in white. And I think if you could put that down in the way we've done this and let it dry and then put the green on top of it, I think maybe you could get the tone, the green on black, which would, I mean, I wasn't even sure how that was going to look on there, even if I could get it to work. I guess it kind of looks sort of okay. Okay, so that didn't work. This was the only other thing I had, which was a stencil that has the leaves on it. But the problem I had run into the last time I tried to use this is, if you remember, when you look at my other videos, is it's an odd size, and it just doesn't, it worked with some of the art journaling I was doing, and it does not work with this. And even if you like, say, scooch it up here and you get that, then you've got this space down here, and you have to, I've tried to line it up before and it doesn't, I never can get it to work. Okay, so what that brings us down to is having run this through the embossing folder and using the Peapod Premium Dye ink from Taylor Expressions, and then you do the, and I am not pressing down hard. I'm just, you know, keeping a light touch here. And again, I don't know that this is premium as far as, or, you know, what I would have tried to do had I given this a little more thought. Like I said, I think this looks great on black. It's just a matter of then trying to figure out what you want to do about the background. Now, remember, when you're ink blending like this, you have to be, if you start right on top of what you're doing, you get like an oval. Okay. Now, I'm tried going around on the other one and making it a little darker around the edge. But you've got to be careful, see, because now it's really working down on the white, which I guess is okay, because that's what it's doing, or what I'm doing. Okay. And then the other thing I do is this. I have what are called pouncers. And they're the small spongy things that you can just put on your finger, but I would have to pause the video and go look for one. I'm pretty sure I know where they're at. Okay. And I am going to pause the video here in a minute and run the brown sheet through the video, through the embossing folder. Okay, so when you do that, okay, so this is the 4. All right, you could put a black piece, and I thought I had one. There's one. And this is already the 4, but if I had the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, you could put that behind there. And then this you would line up with that outside. Okay, and then put these 3 in underneath it, and that would work. Okay, in fact, I do really like what that does. Okay, but that means cutting several pieces, which I can do. Okay, so I'm going to lay this aside for a minute, and I'm going to pause the video, and you know, if I don't tell you that I'm pausing the video, you actually really don't know that I'm doing it, except, you know, all of a sudden there's other things on the screen and it looks like I'm doing magic. I'll be back very shortly. Okay, magic, I'm back. All right, so I cut 2 of the 4 1/8 by 5 3/8 to go here. I'm gonna do this one a little bit differently, but since we have this done, let's go ahead and put this all the way together. Now remember, when you use your embossing folder and you're gluing something that has the debossed side on it, I find I have to be really liberal with my glue. Okay. And then this is just a really tiny border, just enough to kind of pop that. Okay, so then I'm going to line this up. This is one of those times when I use the grid. And I'm going to line this black up with the top there. And then each of these line up here. And we're going to get 3 of them. See, it doesn't really like to stick there. You've got to encourage it. Yeah, that's the word. Okay. 2. And you're trying to get those in so that you kind of have a line there. Now, I did notice after I did all this work that she sets hers over to the side, and I guess she would put a sentiment there. I did not watch the video that goes along with this. She does amazing videos with each of the templates. You can find the templates on her web page, which I will put in the description below. And then I'm just going to slide back here. And I'm going to make these all thinking of you cards, because that's what I've got the little sentiments for. Okay. All right. So we have that. And I don't think you need to watch me do another one of those. And let's try this. This is going to be a little bit different. Similar, same embossing folder pattern, but we're going to use, this is Honey by Tailored Expressions. Notice how the edges are a little darker. I hope you're in frame. That's my air conditioner running in the background. This is being filmed in July. It is, the humidity is reasonable today, but we have been going in and out of short, simple, quick rain spurts. I don't even want to call them storms because, I mean, there's a little thunder, but it's okay. So we're going to set that aside, and we're going to put this together. I really liked the way this was on it was beautiful on the other side. I think I've still got some paper like this, but I basically used some other pattern paper here. So we're going to line that up. I used a different sheet of pattern paper for this rather than some cardstock. I didn't have any cardstock that was this color in my scraps. In fact, that's another one of those colors that I think I finally found some, but what I'm finding is that the color cardstock ends up, it's in a pack with multiple colors, and you know, I get like 4 sheets of the color I actually want, and then a bunch of stuff that I really don't care about, which is how I end up with such a great stash. Okay, so let's try gluing this down. If you are in the Operation Gratitude Facebook group, you'll see that these 10 cards bring me 135 cards into a 200 card box. I donate all of my cards to Operation Gratitude. You'll find a link for them below. And I try to do my greeting cards in batches of 200, mostly because I've got the box that I order my envelopes in holds 200 really well. Okay, so notice how there's a slight difference in these, so I'm going to stagger it, and this has some kind of scribble writing on it, so I'm going to go ahead and try to put that scribble writing right side up. And then we'll put this here. And this kind of brings that color out. This is not like a perfect tone match or anything. I've learned that if I just, like because right now it's kind of bothering me, if I just leave it till morning, by morning it'll look fine to me. Okay, and these are just a little bit off, but I'm not going to try to pull those up. Okay, so we're going to put a thinking of you. I think we'll use this. This has been at the bottom of my thinking of you drawer. I'm going to put that right there, and that way the flower sticks up. The colors kind of match around the edge. Okay, good use. All right, I'm almost finished here. Won't take too long to do this one. Let's see, so a little more about Operation Gratitude. There are multiple things that you can make and donate. If you look on their page, you'll find that there's lots of good information. Another thing, is that everything that they gets used, which is was what attracted me to them in the first place. And then the other part of it is that I come from a family where one generation to the next, there have always been people serving in the military, and so this is kind of my way of honoring their service. It's also, there are, and in fact, there are lots of places you can donate your cards. If for some reason Operation Gratitude doesn't look like it would work for you, you can look at the scrapbook.com site. They do cards for kindness, and they have their expectations and what they're looking for are there. Also, that's one of the other reasons that, aside from the fact that Jess, in Jess Crafts, that all her templates basically are set up so that you don't end up with extra pattern paper scraps. So, like if you use her 6x6, you don't have any pattern paper scraps when you cut it and put it together the way she's suggesting. And she has 12x12s. She did a bunch of stuff just today using something called A2 size paper, which I think is something that scrapbook.com puts out. I don't know that I've seen it anywhere else, but it's a paper pad that's actually the same size as an A2 card, which is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. In this case, since I'm going to try to match the black at the top, I'm going to do this way. And this is bi-directional, and since that's kind of narrow anyway, I'm going to line the narrow part up there. I'm just eyeballing it so it looks pretty centered to me. Yeah, I was able to get 10 cards out of using this pattern, and I think I've got about 8 more 2-inch pattern paper strips. The thing is, they don't like coordinate. It's like I must have made a whole bunch of green cards at some point, because I have just had piles and piles of these green colors. Okay. All right. So we have 2 of those, 1 in the brown. Put my pen back in my glue bottle so I don't make it mad. I have 2 of these, 2 of these, 2, 4, 6, 7, and then the reds, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so that's 10 more to add into my little gift gathering here. So that makes 35, and there are 100 cards in the box on the other side of the room. All right, if you have not subscribed to my channel, I would appreciate it. It works with the algorithm that YouTube has set up, and the more subscribers I have, the more likely the videos are to be pushed out, and the more that we get news out there on Operation Gratitude. These are also always user-friendly, beginner-friendly. I try to give lots of instruction, and I always link whoever I've gotten inspiration from. If you subscribe, you won't start getting emails. You won't start getting any kind of anything from me. You won't Doesn't cost you anything, but it does help get the videos into the stream when people are looking for card making sketches. Another thing you can do is if you click on Random Crafty Acts and go over and look at the playlist, I've done a lot of videos on really basic card making, like how to take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper and get 2 A2 cards, and you know how to figure out what weight of paper to use. So if you're new at this, hopefully that will help you. Thank you for being here today, and keep checking back.